Good morning, everyone. This is Ann Hine, and if you're on, you found AD Skill Builder 3. I'm going to hang out here with the banner up for a little bit so that everyone can find the page and get on. And I will open my comments in just a moment. Let's see here, get these going. All right, my comments are on, so if you're out there and you want to say good morning, you're welcome to do that. Let us know where you're watching from. Or if you want to be incognito, you can stay quietly in the background. That's fine too. We hang out here for about 5 minutes till the top of the hour, and then I turn the camera on and we get started. So if you're new, that's what's going on. We just hang out here for about 5 minutes while everyone finds their way onto the page and gets situated. I did post the notes for today, the class notes. So if you wanted to jump off and go print those out, you'll either see the link in the feed or you can go to the files and you'll find it in the files. So it'll be there too. All right, so we're just hang out here. And as I said, I'm Ann Hine, and this is Skill Builder 3. We usually hang here for a little bit. Hi, Diane and Susan. We got Denise from Idaho. Oh, we got Diane from Idaho. Welcome, welcome. I like Idaho. I've been out that way. I've been to that little town of Buell and also Twin Falls. Hi, Joan. Good morning. Good morning from France. Very nice. Marty, welcome. Suzanne, from West Virginia. And we got Gwendolyn. Welcome, welcome. I'm coming from the little state of Delaware, and so that's where I am. And I actually live in Wilmington, so it's where all the action is lately. So, which is nice. Hi, Denise from West Virginia, Indiana. How nice. All right. So welcome. If you're new and you just came on, I am Ann Hine, and I keep the banner up here for about 5 minutes till the top of the hour so that everyone has a chance to sign on and find the video. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get on and find it. And also, when you go to look for it later, the banner is up and it gives the title of the video. So it's a little easier to search for them when you go into the videos. Hi, Henriette. We have Jane and Rick is here. Claire. Is it Agnes or Agnes? Not sure. Carol. Tenaza. Dee is here. Welcome, welcome. So we have some people meeting up. That's nice. Catherine and Jean. All right, let me check my timer. We're counting down. We're about 1.5 minutes to go. And then I'll put the camera on and we can go from there. Hi, Darla. Welcome. And Heather. Welcome, welcome. Claire. Welcome, Claire. Adeline, good morning. And Anna's here from Toronto. Welcome, welcome. We have people from all over that come on live, and then a lot of people watch it later on because of the time zones. And I have to pick one, and it's hard to please everyone, but all the videos are there, and I do answer any of the questions that come up afterwards, so there's no problem there. And so here we go. We're counting down last half minute here. As I said, I did post the Skill Builder 3 class notes, and so if you wanted to pop off and get those, you can. They're not needed for the class today, but you could take notes on them if you wanted to. It's just a little agenda, kind of keeps me in line so that as we go along, I don't stray off the path. It's easy to do. It's easy to do. So there's so much to tell you with artistic. All right, we're counting down to the last few minutes. So welcome everyone. And we're almost there. Let's see. Here we go. We'll put on the camera. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So I'm Ann Hine. In case you don't know me, sometimes we have new people on all the time. And this is Skill Builder 3 for Artistic Digitizer. Just to let you know, this year what I decided to do is break apart the teaching with Artistic and have a skill builder class on one day and a more project oriented lesson on the other day. So our Tuesdays are all skill builders, and we're going through the software, learning where the tools are, how to use the tools, and we'll be building our skills from there. And then on Thursdays, we'll be playing with some of the tools, creating things. Sometimes there's a actually official project where you can stitch it out. Sometimes I just give you all the tools to make something, and then you get creative from there. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Ann Hine. I am one of the Janome educators. And in a past life, when we used to travel, I did go out to quilt shows and sewing shows, and you might see me in a classroom helping out as a class helper, or maybe I was in the booth showing machines. I might have come to your dealership. I did things at dealers too. I taught classes there and did trainings and things like that. But right now we're doing everything virtual, and I see a light at the end of the tunnel. We might get back out there at some point. So welcome, welcome. All right, so today, as I said, this is Skill Builder 3. I didn't put a title on this one today. Oh, shoot. And I don't know what I was doing today. Not thinking, I think. So the title page is up there, but the description is not. I'll have to go back in. So to find our videos, we use the hashtag topic and the search feature at the top. And last week I talked about that a little bit and showed you how to do that. So when you're on our Facebook page, there's a little magnifier at the top. When you click on that, you can put hashtag, don't leave any spaces, and a topic. And anything on that topic will come up. And then you can pick and choose what you want. There'll be descriptions there and so forth. So that'll be there for everyone to take advantage of if they want to. And let me just check. If you have questions today, finally, I think I solved the issue with my comments. I was having issues with comments. I had turned up the brightness of my iPad, so comments are in white. And when you turn up your brightness, you end up with a very bright background, and then you can't see your comments. So that, I think, was my issue. All right, and let me think what else. Make sure you're checking out from time to time the Janome sewing machine page or the sewing classroom page. We have our makers and our artisans are doing demos and classes there. There's been some really nice ones from Heather Property on using decorative stitches on the sewing side of your machine. Some very creative stuff there. I know we've had things on the Elna Press. So there's lots of things. So check that out. They do them weekly at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I think, is their schedule on there. Also, I post the quick tips. And so I'm hearing somebody's phone ringing in the other room. So we'll see what happens. A lot of music going on right now. Anyways, I do post a quick tip weekly, and when I post it, I take the previous one and put it in the comments. So all the quick tips are there for you to take a look at, and I've done quite a few. I think there's like 23 of them in there, and they're just little tidbits about the software or how to search or things like that. So, and you'll notice about searching when you ask a question, sometimes I will answer kind of briefly, and I'll do the hashtag and reference a video or a way for you to look for a video. So that way it's a little bit easier than me typing out the same things over and over. A lot of the questions are the same, which is fine. But this way you can look for the information. I can help you look for the information. After you've done looking at the information, come back with your questions, because a lot of times that opens up a whole new world of questions. So hopefully that will help everybody as they get learning with the software. And I do have my iPad over here off to the side. So I will be checking that from time to time to see if there's any questions in the beginning. Let's see. Nope, no questions here. If I miss your question, because sometimes they go by pretty quickly and I get busy showing the software. If I miss your question, just be patient. Usually after this, I take lunch and then I come back in the afternoon and I go back through and I answer any questions that are there. And then as people post to the video, I go back and answer questions with that too. So, and then if I miss your question, you can always post it again, or you can PM me with that part of it. All right. I think I have everything on here. If you're new, we did have an update to 1.6, and I put out a lot of information on doing the update. When you update it will take away your link to the sample designs that are in there, so you'll need to reestablish that. And I did post I think in the first video, I did post it today in somebody's comments, the pathway. I think the pathway is kind of the same. It may have changed slightly from the very beginning. So the pathway I have, you have to go to your C drive and users and kind of follow that down through on a PC, and then a Mac is slightly different. So I did kind of post that so you'll be able to find those designs. All right. So today we are on we're going to continue a little bit more with working with our workspace and getting that set up, and then we're going to talk about some tools. I'll show you some tools, and at the very end we're going to do a little bit on monogramming, and then I'm going to try to catch up what we missed last week. So we missed a little bit of stuff last week, so I'm going to try to catch that up at the bottom of the page. All right, so with that said, I'm looking at my list over here. I think we've got everything. All right, I'm going to go over to the software and we'll get started from there. So if you have your coffee, get ready. All right, let's switch over to that. There we go. All right, I'll get myself set here. And here we go. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to hold up here for a minute. This is the welcome page, and I've covered this pretty well in our past videos, but I wanted to kind of hang here for a little bit if there's any questions about the opening page, if you have any questions on that. And while we're here, I want to mention when you go to the help files and the printable help, you can print out just the pages you need instead of printing the whole thing. When you print the manual, that's great, you can print it. When we have an update, the manual changes. Everything gets put, new stuff gets put in there, and the pages change. They don't like insert a page with the new stuff. It's sort of melded in because it's all set up by topics. So sometimes it changes the page numbers. So you can print the whole thing out if you like a hard copy. Sometimes I just print a page or two because I like to have a hard copy next to me. That's handy. Some people have put it on their iPad. I think you can put it on your Android device too, so that it's easier to look at it that way rather than having it all printed. And that way you can, while you're working, you can have it on the side and work with it that way. So I just wanted to check to see if there's any questions or comments on the welcome page. All right, and then we're going to jump in and I'm going to show you a couple of things where to find stuff if you close them. So up here in the top left is welcome and browser, and they stay up here, and then in the little ribbon right here would be all the pages that you open. So if I opened this create new, it'll go back to the welcome page. You'll see the page there. Now when you open a Jeff design, like I have Jeff designs here, it's just going to say new and a number because it's thinking you're going to edit that design, so it's giving you a new page and not a name. If you're opening something, a draw file, like over here I have some draw files, these will open and will give the name of the draw file at the top. The draw file is your editable file, and I do recommend when you're working to save, the first save as you do, it defaults to draw, and I would save it as a draw file so that you can come back to it and make any of your edits at that point, okay? And I'm double checking here. So if by chance you closed your welcome or your browser, because as you're clicking here to X these out, you could X them out. To find them again, you could just go up here to welcome and click on welcome or browser. Or if you're on a new page and your browser's not open, so let's go here to the new page. My browser's not open. I don't have to go back to welcome. I could just come up here to the window and click on browser and it'll bring the browser up for me. So there's lots of ways to get where you're going. My screen is out of focus. It could be your browser. If you're on, sometimes if you're on Safari, it might look slightly blurry, and then if you're on Chrome, it's a little bit better. It's just the way the browsers take the signal, I believe. All right, the other thing that happens to people is over here, your properties and your colors, you close them by accident. So to find those, you would go under View and Toolbars, and they would be right here. So you would find them right there. Okay, or you can click up here. You can right click or a hard click on a Mac and you'll find your properties and colors right here. I keep them off to the side right here all the time. I like them laying flat on each other, and last week I showed you a little bit about dragging those around and how to find them. So that kind of gives you a kind of an idea for that. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's fuzzy. It could be I know some people it's not fuzzy and some people it is. It could be the browser that you're coming from. I think that's a little bit of reading I did on that. I think that's what happens. It's just the way the browser interprets. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is I want to talk a little bit about the, and I have a little extra window I have to keep moving around. The tools in the very top bar here. And I am on a Mac, so sometimes we have one or two or some different things. If you're on a Mac, there are things right here under Artistic that you can click on, and you'll find, especially here under Preferences, this is where you would find your tool options if you're on a Mac. It would on a PC. So if you're looking for your tool options, that's where these would be. And in here you can change from metric to inches. I'm in inches. If I want to go to metric, I would click to metric. And we did cover this last time too. So I just want to remind people of that. And I will double check back here. Okay. All right. So across the top, we do have your file, and we're going to come over these a little bit more. We already talked a little bit about window and view, and we have our tools along here too. So we're going to jump back to those in a moment. I want to go to the browser. And one of the things, when I go into the program, I'm either going to create something new, so I click here, or I could do new up here, or I go to browser. And I like the browser because of the way I can look at my designs. And when you open the browser, let me close these little guys. Here you go. When you open the browser, you'll see the 3 tabs up here, Devices, Recents, and Favorites. So under Devices is everything that your computer has that has a file format that can be read in Artistic Digitizer. And at the very bottom, you'll see I have no name. That's my USB stick. And I'm going to turn my machine on and see if that pops up down there too once I get there. I have the 15,000, so it is Wi-Fi. So in a moment, it should pop in there. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait for it. It's got to take a little time for the machine to get on the web. And sometimes my machine, I have 2 internet addresses here. I guess that's what they're called. One is dedicated to me, but sometimes my machine pops off of it. So if you had your machine on the cable or Wi-Fi, it would be down here. So you can connect with more things. If you had a cloud account, you can connect with it there. So what I want to show you about Browser is if you're in here and you open a folder, so I have one set up. I'm going to go back up here. Here's my working folder. When I click on my working folder, it opens up all the folders that are in there. And then I can click on any of these, and some of these are designs and some of these are not. So here's a folder. This is my applique sample folder, and then I have folders within folders, and here's some designs that are loose in that folder there. So that's all nice. I like that. And if I wanted to move let's go back here. If I wanted to take a folder and move it to my favorites, because look here, in my favorites, I have quite a few things in here. And sometimes there's a folder you want to use quite often, like I have my sample designs. These are the ones from the program. I have my working folder down here so I can find it easy, my embroidery folder. I have some other things in here I probably want to remove at some point, but right now they don't bother me. If I wanted to take one of these folders and move it to my favorites, when I click on it, I'm right clicking or hard clicking on a Mac. So in here, I can do a couple different things with this. So here I can add it to my favorites. So if I click here, add to favorites, you can see right down here, it's in the favorites. And I didn't have to have favorites open to do that, but I can put it in there if I want to. And if you wanted to remove something from here, when you have it, you can click on here and say remove from favorites. It'll just take it out of favorites. It won't delete the folder, but if you're in devices and you remove it, that will delete it. So I wanted to make sure you understood that part of it. You can also move designs. And I know I have a question up here. Yes, Suzanne, I do have some ideas for you on that. Hold on just a moment. If you wanted to move a design from one place to another, I don't know if I have anything in these folders. Nope. Go back here. I'll go into my applique designs. So say I wanted to move this to a different folder. I could hard click on it and I could copy it, or I could remove it from here. And if I copy it and then I go to another folder, I can put a copy of it in this folder. Right click or hard click on your Mac and then add it to here. Did I click add it to here? I did. Oh, wait a minute. That's not what I was doing. Well, I had this right. Let me get back to this and do this again. I have a little stand I have my computer on, and sometimes it doesn't want to respond well when it's up there. There we go. Let's open this up. There we go. And let's copy this one. There we go. And then I'm going to take it to my test folder and paste. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So you can move your files, you can move your designs around on that part of it. Okay. So you have a lot of ability to, I like Browse because I love seeing all the thumbnails. And when you're when you're over here, when you do open, you're only going to see, you may see a thumbnail over here of just one design at a time as you select them. And I'm on a Mac, so my tree is a little different. It starts on the left and everything keeps popping out to the right on there. And I can see a little bit of the JPEG there, but most of the time you just see your icon. So that's why I like to use the browse feature. I'm a huge browse person. I just love the browse. Now, Suzanne is saying she's having trouble connecting her 15,000 to Wi-Fi. A couple things to check. Make sure it does have an IP address with a DCHP thing on there too, and a MAC address. That's not MAC for Apple, it's something else. You need to make sure it has both of those. You need to make sure that you're not too far from your router. At our house, our router is actually upstairs, and I'm in an addition downstairs, kind of outside the house. And there's a brick wall there with openings. But we brought a router downstairs, a booster router downstairs, and then my husband made an address just for me, for my sewing machine and my sewing stuff, so that I can directly go on there. Sometimes your address has a lot of items on it that are using it, and the machine can't quite attach to that. All right. Yeah, you need to be on the same, that's what Amy's saying. You need to be on the same internet as, both your machine and your iPad need to be on the same address. So check on that. And you may need to get a booster. You just may need to get a booster, depending on where your machine is on that part of it. All right. So I talked a little bit about remove versus delete. I want to remind people of that. If you're in browser and you're deleting from down here, this deletes it completely. All right. And it doesn't, so you don't want to delete down here. You just want to go to favorites and remove up here. Leave your device things in here. Don't delete from down there or remove from down there. The other question was, oh, that's the other thing. Susan mentioned here too. You have to open on a 15,000. Open your Horizon Link suite. Go to the menu at the top left. It's the circle, and there's connection settings, and choose Wi-Fi. Then that should help too. There we go. Thank you for that, Susan. I always forget about that. Good morning, Amy. I'm using my black polka dot cup today. And I missed you yesterday. Your video ended, so I'm not sure what happened with that. I'm not sure. I don't think the brother will connect. That's new for our software, so I'm not really sure. Yeah, you moved it closer to the router, or move a router closest to your machine, and that helps it, Dale. Thank you, Dale. On the Brother Solera Innovas, I don't know if that will connect. That might only connect to the cloud. Your machine might only connect to the cloud. That might be the issue there. Ours doesn't go to the cloud, so that may be why it doesn't connect. All right, so we're going to go in here to that new page that I opened, and we're going to talk a little bit about the toolbar up here. So I'm going to make a shape so you can see a couple things. And when I do that, up here, I don't know how everyone has their, let me do this so we can see this off to the side and make it larger. All right, so when you're in here under View, you have some choices of what you want to see on your screen, or how you want to see it. So if you have your stitches on or off, now I have them off. I don't see any stitches. I just see color. And then I can turn them back on, and I'll see the stitches. I can turn my 3D view off, and I just see, again, I'll see stitches, but I don't see that the view is slightly different on there. Let me go here and select from there. I can see stitch points when I have my stitches selected. I can see stitch points. These you cannot change, but you can see, if I scroll in, you can see these are all the needle points that'll be in there. Those are your stitch points. So if you wanted to see the stitch points, you can't edit them from there. I'm going to show you how you do that. But just so you know what that is up under here. So I'm going to put this on. I'm going to turn stitch points off because I don't need that on. Your thickness view looks at the layers that are in there, and in your help files, if you look that up, it tells you what the layers mean, so you can take a look at that. And then I want to show you this, the hoop button here. I got to scroll out so you can see it. Here you can turn your hoop on and off. So there my hoop is off. You can't turn these lines off. All right, these are the hoop limit lines. and your centerpiece. You can't turn those off, but if they bother you, you probably could make them white with the new custom colors so that you don't see them in the background, or you can slide over here. Many times I work over here, and when I'm done, I will select everything and bring it back to my to here. Sometimes I'll use the center to hoop with it too when it's over here. It depends on what I have there, and that'll bring it over. Okay, so that's your hoop on and off. If you need to turn your hoop on and off, it's right up there underneath view. Let me see what else I had under view. Hoop on and off. All right. So, oh, your stitch point option, right. So to get your stitch point option, see, I don't have it here now. All right. If I turn off 3D, wait a minute, I got to put, it pops back on. Let me see here. There's no stitches. Let me put my stitches back on. I don't know why it won't come back. It's, you know, there's a way to, that's the part I get confused on. I bring it back. There's thickness view. I don't think it's going to bring it back with that. Let me take it out of thickness view. Let's do this. I'm going to delete this one and start again. Let me select it. There we go. I'm selected. There's my stitches. I know they pop in. I'm going to have to double check on that where they go to, because I just had them there. I know we were using them. There we go. We're in yeah, it's odd where how the what do you call it? The order that you have to go to get those. Let me see up here. If we go to help and help topics, let's do a quick search on what was that stitch ST. We'll take a quick look here and see what comes up. All right, let's look at design view. There's an additional option. It's enabled. So you'll have to read through and see where it's enabled. I'm not going to take the time to take a look, but here you have 3D preview, stitches view, just your outline view, and then it talks about your stitch point view. But I don't think, you know, for me, the stitch points aren't that as important as when I have to edit stitches. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that editing in just as we go along. So that's under view. So we'll be doing more under view as we cover some of these other things as we go along. The next thing I want to talk about on the top toolbar is your fabric. And I'm going to double check if I have any. Yeah, see, when you click off 3D, it does, stitch points reappear. So it has to do with the 3D option, and it could be my computer's just a little slow today. You have to turn off your 3D. No, the stitch point option is not a Mac thing. It's on both of those. It's part of the program. Bye, Amy. See you later. So we'll get back to that in just a moment. So I want to click on fabric and talk a little bit about fabric. When you're in here, these are your fabric choices for this embroidery category. All right, and there's different ones here, and they give you a little bit of a background texture, and you can change the color right up here. So you can make your background any color. I like a white, kind of a white background. It works better for me. Yep, and by selecting your shape, I see that. And it could be I hadn't selected off and reselected my shape. So here, these are the different fabrics you can choose, and these will set your density. So let me show you this first. I am in smooth, and this is how it looks, a shape looks in smooth. And then I'm going to go in here and change to a different embroidery category. So I'm going to go to normal. And you can see the edges are more filled in. It's more dense. So using different, under fabric, using different embroidery categories will give you a different density for your piece. And if you wanted to go really light, maybe I wanted to go ultra light. Let's see what this, there's a nice light texture on top of a tulle. So that's what that's for. If you're having trouble, you don't think your embroidery is filling in, try normal. Sometimes I use smooth. I like the look of smooth depending on what I'm working with. So you have that option. It all has to do with the density of what you're choosing, and then your fabric will give you that the fabric texture look behind your piece when you're working. So that covers our fabric and our background color. So if you wanted to know how to change that background color, it's right up here under fabric. Just click in here, and you can move your the circle around, and it changes where your what the color is, and you can change the intensity of your color. There we go there. All right, so that is on fabric and embroidery category. I showed you that. The other thing up here I want to point out is techniques. When you open techniques, it always has embroidery chosen. That's the default because this is an embroidery program. But you can choose other techniques to do if you wanted to work with cutting appliques. We're gonna do an applique project on Thursday. I have to post that today. We're going to be doing an applique project. If I wanted to do something with cut files, even if it was paper or design a cut file, I would click here. If I wanted to use something with crystals, I would click here. And when I do that, and there's stencil, we're going to do a project on stencil eventually and paint. When I do that, over here in my properties, I will get under outline, because those are outline properties, I will get cut and crystals. So I can select and make this a cut file if I want, just by selecting there. All right, let me see here. Are you looking for the up here, the view tab? Is that what you're looking for? I'm not sure. All right, so Kay, oh, okay, let me go back a minute. I'm going to answer a couple questions. Yeah, there is a toolbar way at the top. So if you're not seeing that toolbar, that's on a Mac. There's a high toolbar. Kay, what you want to do is watch the video from last week, I believe, on the Tuesday one, the Skill Builder. I showed how to change your default color for your shapes, for your outline, for your text, fill and outline on text. So you can double check that. That was on last week. So take a look at that. All right, do we get the answer question about okay, there we go. We got it done. All right. So that's where techniques is. The other one I want to show you, and right now I don't see it up here. All right. It's the shapes tool. It's different from the shapes over here. These shapes on the side are where you create a shape. When the tool arrives up here, it's a tool for working with shapes and doing some things with shapes. Did you select them? Let's see. Joanne, you have to make sure you selected them. So make sure you have your, select that and make sure on your techniques that you have them selected and that you selected OK. So you turn them on. And then you have to select outline, and it would be under outline, cut and crystals. And I'm not sure, I think Junior has cut and crystals, so I don't think it's a problem with that. So this is the shapes tool. It would be on the top. And to make the shapes tool, you actually need more than one thing on your working area. So that's the thing about Artistic I Like. It only gives you the tools that will work with what you have on your workspace at that time. All right, there are some tools you can turn on and off, just like the techniques that I showed you. But right now, if I right click on this, you'll see I have these tools. And a little bit later, I'll right click again and you'll see there'll be more tools here. So the software is very smart. It's only going to give you the things you need to work with when you work with them. All right, so let's duplicate this. I can do copy paste up here, or I could use the duplicate there. And I'm just going to bring this off to the side. So now I have two of these, and when I select them, look what I have more tools up here now. I have shaping, I have align, I have view, I have resize. My convert was there, my auto, but shaping is up here. So when I click on shaping, I have a couple options. I can weld, trim, or intersect. So if I weld it together, it puts a little piece across there. But if I did this, if they were one on top of the, let me click off of them here. If I put one on top of each other, like that, and then I selected both and shaping, I could weld them together and they become one piece. This is really handy when you're editing some embroideries. Maybe you brought in a picture and you're editing it, and you know, sometimes when you bring in a picture, it has a zillion colors, and sometimes you can just join all those parts together and make them all one color and work with them there. So I want to show you some different things with that. So let me undo this. So that's the weld. And now they're overlapping. Let's look at what trim does. Trim is going to cut a part off, and I'm going to show you some interesting things with trim I think you're really going to like. The other one that's here, let's undo this, is intersect. When I select both of these, let's undo here. And shaping is intersect. And it makes a little spot in the center where they overlap, and you can change the color of that to something else if you want it. So now I have 3 parts in my design. So that's the very simple way to show you that. Let me show you with a graphic. All right, so I have one set up here. I think you're really going to like this. Let me see my class folder. All right, so I'm going to bring in, this is a PNG. I'm going to bring this in. We're going to come back to bringing in like an art file like this and working with it. But I know some of you are already doing this. I'm going to auto digitize, so I'm going to select there and OK. And then in this window, this is my image window, I'm just going to select the color limit and make it 3 and trace. There we go. So pretty much this is what happens. You get this white around there, and you can select it. You can hit delete, or you can delete over here like that, and it deletes. Now you can still see this. I don't think that's stitches. That's my background showing through. But if I came in here, the next thing you want to do is remove this, correct? So if I selected that and hit delete, it doesn't leave a hole. And I'm like, I want to leave a hole there. You can use your shaping tool for that. If I selected this, I can either right click on here and see I have some different tools now. There's shaping and trim. Then I can come back here, select that, and delete, and it's gone. You just see the background. Does that put some light bulbs on for everyone? This is a very handy tool when you're using letters or you're working with editing. So this here is actually a step fill. It's actually a fill, and this is laying on top of it. So when you remove it, there's no hole there. So to get that hole, we're going to select it. We can either go right click and shaping, or we can go to shaping up here and trim. So we can take that away. All right, so that's helpful. I wanted to show that because a lot of people are working on items like this. You're doing logos. And I just want you to know, when you bring in your logo, that even if you had a tiny little outline around this, when you click on that outline, look at what it is over here. It might be a fill. It's not a true outline. It might be a fill. So those are the kind of the tricks that you need to look at, those kind of things. All right, so the other thing I want to show with this is another one. I have a different one to show. This here's a JEF file. Now sometimes we bring in our JEF files, and when we click on them, the only thing we can really do with them is resize them. This is all like all one design. I don't think there's parts to this design. Let me see. I'm going to cover this part in a minute, the going to out of auto. I have another design for that. So here's my design. I can't really do anything with it. I can't edit the nodes. I can't edit stitches because it's raw data. So when I select it, I have to convert it to curves. So I'm going to click here to convert to curves. It's going to take it takes a moment sometimes, and my machine is thinking about it. Now it's actually stitches. And it's all one piece. Earlier, let me see if it'll work this way. Sometimes, yeah, I'm not getting shaping. Okay. So when you're working with a JEF file, you have to remember that you need to turn it into and if I do a satin stitch, this will look even prettier. This is actually a quilting design. It's a line design. So I want to make sure you are using your convert to curves on there to give it that, to give it its piece. So let me show you one more thing with, oh, where did that design? Oh, I know where I have to go. Let me go here. I want to open one more design and show you using shaping and trim. Let's go in here. So say you bring in, this is a JEF file, and what's nice is I don't have to convert the whole thing, okay? Yep, I'm going to show you shape and trim again. I don't have to convert the whole thing, but maybe I want to work with a part of this, and I want to join this piece to this piece. And when I do that, I don't get shaping up here because it's still raw data. I can do convert to curves, and now it makes it, it gives it stitches for me to use to edit those stitches. And I have shaping again, and I could do weld, and now they're all one piece. So I could work with it there and change the density back to this type of stitch density, or I can keep it like that. So what I want to point out is when you bring in a photograph and you convert it to stitches, and it has all these little parts like that, See how this design has all little parts? If you want to bring those parts together so you don't have like 3 stitches here and 3 stitches over here, if you select both, make sure they're stitches. If you have to convert to curves, you convert to curves, and then you can make it into a full piece. Hopefully that makes sense. So let me undo this. So if I wanted to make this all one piece, I would have to select it. Since it's a JEF file, I have to convert it. If I want to put them together into one segment, I would come up here and I would do weld over intersect. I want them to become one piece. Weld brings them all together. Okay. Let me go back and talk about, I'm going to delete this one. It's not really what I wanted. Here and show you trim again. Let me undo this. All right, so when you have things laying on top of each other and you select one and move it away, even down here, if I select and move that away, it fills in. If you want to cut that hole, let's undo it and put it back. You would select all of this. Use your shaping tool on the top or right click, hard click for a Mac, and you could do shaping and trim. And then it makes it 2 pieces, so you can move this out of the way. Does that help? Let's see who asked that. Glenda, does that help on that? Yeah, I know a lot of you are going to like this. I think it's really important to know how to use the trim feature, the shaping and trim, especially when you're editing different pieces of work. So I want to show you one more with weld, and I think I can find the picture pretty quickly. Let me see here. Go back here. Maybe I can. Let's see if I can find it. No, not that one. Well, anyways, I just want to make sure you can use those features of, let's go back in and we'll show welding again. Not with that. Let's make a new page. When you have 2 things that you want to put together, maybe I want to join that and another shape together like this. And I want to make them one shape. All I have to do is select them, go to shaping, and weld, and they become one piece. Once they're there, I can play with the step fill, the direction of stitches, all of that can be changed in there. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the left toolbar and a few things over here, because I know people are trying to do logos and they're working on editing and things like that. So I want to talk about some of the things over here that we have. And the first one is select, and of course you have your choices on how you select. And then we have edit nodes and edit stitches. Now edit nodes works with the shape of your piece. So let's go back to our logo here. So when I pick this J and I want to edit nodes, I click on it and it puts all these little dots. These are the nodes, and they're for shaping. They will change how my piece looks on the outside, like that. Okay, so that's kind of how you would change your letters. If you have a letter that's looking kind of wonky, you can use that piece on there. Let me show you with this little design here. Here we go. With my little mushroom. This is an SVG, so it's a graphic and it comes right in. So here's my little mushroom cap. And say I wanted to change the shape of the mushroom cap, I could come over here and hit edit nodes, and I could just you know, pull on this and make the mushroom a little bit. Maybe I want it more of a button type one. And so these are curved ones, and they have your little arms on them to stretch your stitches out and help you with your shaping. These are more square ones. They're cusp nodes. So when I brought it up there, it made a point at the top of my mushroom. So my mushroom now has a point. So the difference between edit nodes, which we were just doing, and edit stitches will actually edit the stitches that are down in here. If I wanted to make a change in these stitches right here. So I could come in here and I could click on my piece and edit stitches. I have to come up here to auto and change it to, so it has manual and optimize there. And then if you go to optimize advanced, click again on selection and back on edit stitches. And now I'm going to zoom way in so you can see this. See all those arrows? Those are your stitch points. So if I wanted to change the stitch points on this, we'll put a couple of these out, and then I'm going to go back to select. See how I changed my stitch points? I actually moved the stitches. It didn't really change the shape. I mean, I'd have to move a lot of these to change the shape. If I needed to, let me come in here. Maybe I wanted to do something down in here. I think this is kind of funny when I do this. Now I've made a hole in there. So I want you to understand the differences between the, yes, you can do this with a draw file. You can actually do this with any stitch file. I just happened to bring in an SVG to show you that. I just want you to know the difference between edit nodes and edit stitches. Because sometimes people say, I want to edit the stitches when they actually want to edit the nodes. So the nodes are shaping. That will help reshape your piece. Stitches will be the actual stitch points. So on Thursday, when we do applique, I'm going to use edit stitches and show you something with that on there. So you can edit your stitches that way, which I think is important to see that, how that works. Because sometimes you have a stray stitch that hangs out. Like if this came and was like that and was sticking out, I could do edit stitches and I could pull this back in. I can add a stitch too. There's different ways to add a stitch. When you right click on it, you can insert or insert at end, and then I can actually click out here and make more stitches. Hit my enter, and then I made stitches out there. So you can add stitches when you're working with edit stitches. So I'm zooming in fast because I'm using my touchpad, and I'm zooming this way with my fingers, in and out. On my Mac, if I, expand your fingers, just same thing as on any Apple product. You can do the same on your PC if your pad is set up that way. You can also, if you want to move left and right, a lot of times I use my PC and I use my mouse and my wheel. So with your wheel, when you put your cursor where you want to zoom into, like here, and then you roll your wheel, you can go in and out that way with your wheel. If you want to go left and right, you have to hit shift, and then you can drag your cursor, your mouse left and right. And that leads us to zoom right here. How can you get stitches closer to an edge so there's no empty space between the colors? You could edit, you might be able to, you can either edit I would start with editing the shape. So edit nodes first to bring to see if you can bring the pieces closer together that way by shape. If you can't, then I go in and look at the different parts, and I will bring the stitches closer together so that it's more filled in. And you can add a stitch if you have to. No touchpad on your Mac. Well, you can, I think you can buy like that, I don't know what that touchpad is, but anyways. So, but that's how you use your mouse wheel. I think I talked about that in the first video, So let's move down here. We're going to talk about zoom. And you have different zooms. I usually leave it on this zoom. This will go back to my previous, whatever I was at previous. Zoom all, if I had this off to the side and I couldn't, sometimes you can't find it, like, ooh, where is it? If you go to zoom and all, it'll bring it right back to the center. So sometimes, we're scrolling and things scroll off to the side. I don't know, we lean on our pad or something and it goes over there. That's what that's for. Pan, if you want to grab and move your hoop around, it'll grab and move your hoop. And if so if you're zooming and you have the pan on, it grabs it and moves your hoop that way. Let me get out of this and put it back in the center. All right, so below that is measure. So Linda, you're mentioning, to make things fill in, changing the fabric type. You could change your fabric type. You might want to change your embroidery category because the different categories are what change the density, and you're actually changing density. So sometimes instead of playing with density, I'll change my embroidery category, or sometimes I'll change my fabric, and that will make a difference too. All right, so let's move down here to measure. You have a measure tool, and let me zoom in here so you can see it when I use it. You can click and drag, and it will tell you how far something is. I'm in inches, so it's showing me in inches. This is handy when you don't have your grid on and you want it like, oh, I need this to be a certain distance. Yep, or I'm measuring for my satin stitch. I don't want my satin stitch to be too wide, and I could take a quick measure that way. This is the fun one, stitch flow. All right, I'm going to do some undos here before I get to that because I want to put let's see if I can get it to go back to, there we go. All right, so we'll leave it like that. That's fine. Let me edit that note and bring it back. There we go. That's better. All right, so let's talk about stitch flow. Stitch flow is the way the direction the stitches are going. So right now I have just a plain step fill, and if I clicked stitch flow, it only gives me direction. So I can only move the direction of these stitches. So I can click in here, and it has an X, so I can bend this a little bit and curve those stitches. Not the best with this one, but with this actual step fill, moving that. But it gives me that opportunity to move my stitches in different directions. So now they're slightly curved. So let me show you this. Let me go back out of here, and I'm going to undo. When you change your step fill, over here in step fill, I'm going to go to pattern, and I'm going to pick this pattern, these curves here. And with them that way, see, my fabric right now is smooth. So if I went, you'll see it change now. See how it's closer? Less gaps. So sometimes changing your category, your embroidery category. So if I want to move the way these are looking, I can go to stitch flow, and I can actually close that one and get another one, and say I want them to be a little bit angled. I can move how they are looking. And then if I want to curve them, just curve them ever so slightly, I can do that. Some stitches will stay within the bounds. There we go. Look at that texture I have. Let me click off of this. So that gives you an idea of working with the Stitch Flow tool. I'm going to show you some more with Stitch Flow because with a step fill, you're only going to get direction. All right, so let me undo this. And I'm going to go to a satin fill. Actually, I'm going to go down here to satin. I'm going to select this piece here, and I'm going to make it a satin fill. So it's no longer a step fill, it's a satin fill. Now, when I go to Stitch Flow, I have 3 different things. All right, so now I have 3 choices. I can do direction, I can do divide, and I can do point direction. So let's do divide first. Divide, you have to stay on the line, and it will make a little crease in there. So let me go back to Stitch Flow. Let's click on divide. Maybe it's gonna, I'm gonna go over here, see if we can. And then I'm gonna change the direction of my stitches. I'm gonna make them come down like that. And let me click off of this. So see now how my stitches are coming in more like a leaf? So that's using your Stitch Flow with a satin fill. That will change the direction. So see down here, these stitches are kind of weird. Maybe I would change the direction. There we go. They look a lot nicer now, just by changing the direction of those stitches. Of course, I can. This doesn't give me the opportunity to bend this one, but that's okay. So let's look at point direction. I'm going to come over here to this piece here, and I'm going to select it, and I'm going to select the center, and I'm going to weld them together. There we go. So now they're all one piece. So that's where I selected 2 pieces. I went to shaping and weld. I'm going to go to satin. It doesn't look all that great, but I'm going to go to Stitch Flow, and I'm going to use point direction, and I'm going to put a point right in the center. That's going to draw all my stitches to the center. So that gives you a look at Stitch Flow with a satin. You get direction, divide, and point direction. If you just have a step fill and Stitch Flow, you're only going to get direction. What also is neat is when you're working with satin, you can use your other, you can use them together. So let's do divide. So maybe I want to divide my petals. This really gives you a lot of creativity with a little, it's hard to see that they moved. Let me see if I can do it over here. So you can use your divide and your point direction. I could put this over here and move it this way. Oh, point direction. You got to choose it to make it work. So I could bring that over here and do some really creative things. You can use that with your row fills too. All right, so that's the whole thing about there's more tools. When you click on things, you'll get more tools and less tools. And again, we are over, and we're not even to where I wanted to get to. So we did edit nodes, and I showed you, this is from, this design here with my mushroom is from Daily Art Hub. That's D-A-H, Daily Art Hub. And I showed you a JEF file, converting to curves. So we did that whole section. I'm going to have to start with the other section next time. All right, so let's quickly, I'm going to see how everybody's doing with questions. I think we're all good. I'm going to go a little bit longer We might go to 12:30 just to make sure we get through some of this. We're going to talk about custom colors again. And we'll continue with these tools in our other lessons, but I only want to give you a few things each time so you can go off and play with them and not be confused with too many things. So last week we did our custom colors, and they're right here. When you open this menu up, you get some you get your custom color list. And we covered, last week we covered the guidelines, so the things at the bottom. We did our grid, our error fill, our hoop limits, and our guidelines. And what that means is our hoop limits are is that orange line around here. And the error fill is when you take this outside the hoop, this fills in with a color. All right, so that's what those are. And these are the grids that you have. And we'll cover work area again another time. So selection. So did you notice, like when I go to select, I have a green color. That's what that means. All right, so if you want to change your selection color, you can do that. Now, the next one is selection outline. If you notice, everything has this yellowy outline because I changed my selection outline. And you just click on these and it brings up your color wheel where you can change it. My selection box is blue, so this box around here is blue. And then my focus selection is this bright pink. So that's the focus. So I've selected this piece, and that's the focus outline around it. So this is handy if you like, if you want certain colors. Some people's eyes work better with certain things. Sometimes you can't see your selection outline. So it's good to have it. You can change it on the fly every time, anytime you want. And you can save them as your default or restore them. The last one here I want to talk about is the digitize outline. So I have mine set for pink, and I'm going to close this. That means this tool here, when I use either of these, when I'm designing, it's that bright pink. And then it turns green afterwards. Let me go back to my tools. And it's green because that's my default color for outlines, and that's considered an outline. So this pink, when I'm drawing it, is my digitize outline color. So you can change that too. If you like to draw with a different color, you can. But the line itself, this color of the line, is what we covered last week under default colors. And that's where you would click down in here to change that. All right, so that gives you some things to play with on there. Let's go play with monograms really quickly and have some fun with that. How about we do that? Is everybody up for that? Give me a little thumbs up if you're still hanging in there, because I'll go on a little further. All right, so let's look at monograms. I'm going to close some pages here. You don't need these open. He's so cute. All right, so let me go over here and I'll close this guy too. Let's open a new page. So under your lettering tab, good, everybody's on. All right. You have text, which we covered last week, and you have monogram. So, and I did show you in weeks past how to, you could create your own monogram style if you wanted to in text by putting your letters, 3 letters together. So under monogram, we have a new window that opens, and this window has your sizing. If you want it proportional, you put your text in here. You can pick your font, so you can use the pre-digitized. And we do have, Sue posted many files on what each of these look like. And then I have one file that has all of them together, but they're smaller thumbnails. So you have 2 options to look at those. But you also have any of your true type fonts If you want to use any of your true type fonts, I have to figure out where they are. If you want to use any of your true type fonts, you can definitely use those with there. So I'm going to use my chalkboard. There we go. And then you have templates. All right, Anita, you can watch some more tomorrow later on when you wake up. Good night. So you have these templates. There's 20 different templates of different things that you can, different ways to set your monogram. And I'm going to scroll in here. And I'll just pick a couple of these. And what it does is, see the numbers 1, 2, and 3? It will put, a lot of times we want our first, our last, and our middle. So that sets it for me. And all I have to do is type in here the correct order of my letters. So my name is Ann Nancy Hine, so I put A-N-H. So the software will put the letters in the proper place for me. Same thing here. So we have those, and then we'll come back and play with frames a little bit more. There's frames and borders to play with, but we'll come back and play a little bit more with that. But what I want to show you is when you have an overlapping font like this, this is where it's fun. I'm going to select OK here, and I'm just going to select this and make it bigger. So my font is overlapping in some spots here. I can actually manipulate that a little bit. If I select mine and do edit nodes, it gives me a box around each one. So now I can change the shape of the whole letter like that if I wanted to. All right, and I'm going to bring this A over here. Oops, over there. There is a lesson in the files on, what is it called? Something monogram. And a little lesson I did once before so you can see this. But so there it is. And when I'm going to scroll way in so you can see. When I hover over certain areas, they highlight anywhere it's overlapped. And if I click on that area, it will bring that back part to the front. Did you see that? So let me put it back. Now it's behind the A. And if I click on it again, it's on top of the A. I can click this one and make it go behind the A. So you can weave your letters amongst themselves like that. Does that make sense? This is really fun. I had fun playing with this. I did that lesson, and I like pulled these out, and then I used these arrows to stretch my letters a little bit like that. And I just created some fun things. It's really a fun way to play with monograms and make them your own and really be creative with what you want on there. So that would be with working with the overlaps. And if you wanted to actually edit the shape of the letter more fully, remember we would have to, so monograms you don't have to convert them because they give you their nodes. But if you are in text, regular text, remember last week we did a little bit with regular text, you have to convert that in order to get more nodes to work with it. All right? So it's working within its box. But I know we're going to see some really fun monograms showing up on our page. So as you play, you're going to be using your shaping tool, your weld, your trim, your intersect. I want to see some of that. I want to see you doing, doing a logo and trimming out that center part. So you can do that part too. You're using shaping and trim for that. And let's go to what we missed last week. One of the things I've mentioned a couple times, more tools, less tools. So depending on what's on your, what's here is what tools you get. So here are my tools. I have break apart at this point because the items on my selection they have something that can be broken apart. So if I hit break apart, now my letters are all different pieces. This N is separate from the other piece up there. Do you see that? Like if I move the N away, it broke it into all these pieces. So that's what break apart does. And you'll only see break apart when you have something the software will allow you to break apart. The same thing with the knife feature. If you won't see the knife feature, and we're going to play more with, there's a great video on the knife feature. When I right click here, now I don't see break apart because I used it already and there's nothing to break apart. So I can, I can undo if I want, but I have the other options here if I want to. So you can see how things go away. The knife feature, you actually have to create a line to make the knife feature show up. And I'm just going to quickly show this because we're going to do more of this. And I think it'll work with this one. I'm going to draw a line across here, an N shape. And then I'm going to select it and then select everything. And if the knife feature will engage, I'll right click and I'll see knife. And what that will do, it's going to slice across that piece of my letter. So I can, let me just click here, knife. So now I have two parts to my H. I have the upper and this lower part. Why would I want to do that? Well, this is why, because over here, I can make my H now multicolored. Let's go here to, where is my Janome? There we go. Like that. So remember, I'm going to go back and do this again. If you want to show the knife feature, you have to create the line that the knife is going to cut. Does that make sense? So I'm going to create my line using digitize outline shape, and I'm just going to draw a line across here. It could be a wavy line too. I could kind of do this kind of thing. And it does put the locking stitches in there and everything. It doesn't, it makes this a totally separate piece. There's my line. I'm going to hit select, and then I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to right click on it, select knife. There's my little piece. I just have to select it, and I could change it another color. I could change the outline too. The outline color can change also. Let me make a different color for outline. I can't see my colors. Let's do, there we go. So I changed both the outline and my inside color. Does that make sense? All right, now let me think. So that covers the more tool, less tools. And then I want to show you, we talked a little bit about this, is up here under tools. If you're looking for designs to play with, the clip art library is up here. So you have a multitude of these designs that you can work with and reshape and play with. You just click on them and drag like this, and then you can play with that image yourself, do whatever you want with it. If you wanted to play with the, tools, insert symbol, these are the webdings and wingdings that are in your computer. So you can play with these. These are great shapes. I just love playing in here. I mean, there's this neat little airplane. Let me get over here and put him in. Oops, I did not hit the right thing. It helps if you select, where did he go? Select it and hit insert, not close. There you go. Let's just close that. And now I have an airplane. I can play with the airplane. I love all these things that I can use because I've told you many times I am not an artist. And for me, I can play with these images and do some really, really fun things with this. I did talk last week about using the rectangular array. I think that was supposed to be circular array. That was the thing. I was showing circular array. I'm going to hold off on that because I want to do a whole thing on the array. And I think that would be much easier than tacking it on the end and just giving you a little tiny bit about it. I would rather come back and do a full lesson so you have more on array. I think that would be more. Oh, how to add your own clip art. Do you mean how to add a clip art to the clip art list or how to bring in clip art? Let's see what that is. I'm going to wait a minute for Linda to answer. So she asked about how to add our own clip art again. If you're talking about how to bring in a graphic, how to bring in clip art that way, how to bring in PNG file, those kind of things. Oh, add clip art. All right, I'm going to, what I'm going to have you do is go to the search feature and do hashtag clip art or hashtag webdings, hashtag wingdings, because I covered that in there and it's a little bit more complicated when you want to add your design in. What she's talking about is in your clip art library. Do you see where it says insert clip art or create clip art? You can bring in your own clip art and have it in here. I don't think I have one in here right now that I was using. So it'd be better if you watch the video, or I can do it. I can actually do it on another one, creating clip art and saving it to your clip art. It's a great thing to do. If you have a shape you use a lot, you know, like we were talking about triangles at one point. People were using triangles, so if you made a triangle shape, you could bring that in there and save it. I had a little bee shape that I really liked, and I brought the bee in there, and so he's handy. I don't have to go searching for him. I use 2 computers, so what you do on one computer stays, unless you save under clip art, it stays per computer. If you're saving things to your actual like C drives and whatever your folders, it'll transfer back and forth between computers on that part of it. Okay. So we will do more with the array. All right, let's talk about auto sequence because I'm just going to do a little bit on that because there's a if you go to our files, there are some worksheets. There's worksheets 1 through 20 something. They're individual lessons. They came from the UK. And we're using them. I did 2 videos on them. I did one video on worksheets 1 through 5, and if you look on the notes for today, if you go and get that video, if you do hashtag worksheets 1 to 5, and then you open the video and you go to 23.11 in the video, that's where I talk about sequencing. And I do a little lesson there with boxes and creating the boxes with the array tool, and then how to move them around in your sequence window. All right, so your sequence window basically is always like this unless you close it, and then it's like that. So you always have a sequence window. It always stays there. It doesn't move. But you can expand it by going up here to Auto, and then you have Manual and Optimize. And when you click on anything in here, it selects it. And so it selected that tub and everything because these are grouped together. So if I was to move this in here, see how it brought them all together? If I moved them in the stitch order, they would stay together. Unlike my N, so the N is near there, but it's by itself. So I could move it. And when you're moving things in this order, this is your stitch order. This stitch is first, this stitch is second, this stitch is third. If things are on top of each other and you move them so they're behind something, it's going to stitch in a different order. That's what I want to make sure you understand when you're moving things. You can click and drag these around if you want to, but always check to make sure you've kept it in the proper order. See the plane, or this H is, let's move the plane on top of here. So the plane is on top. My purple plane is on top of the H. If I move it back one, it's going to stitch now before, and the H will stitch after it. Does that make sense? Now, when looking at this, I'm looking at shapes right now. I'm like my fill and my outline shapes. So they're together. Fill and outline are together in all of these. I can also look at it by color, and then it brings things together by color. It groups things by color. If you wanted to expand and separate your outlines from your fills, if you go to optimize, and I did this earlier, I clicked on that. There's simple, which we were just doing. If you want to do advanced and okay, it separates now your outlines from your pieces. So all those letters, there's their outlines. So they've moved down, and these numbers are the stitch order numbers. And this open box means an outline, and a closed box means a fill. So you can move things around over here. I always caution so that you don't, sometimes if you have a very involved piece and you're moving pieces around, we're going to cover moving pieces around as we learn, because there's some really great ways to select pieces and move them so you don't end up something in the wrong order. But you can reorder over here in your sequence window. All right, so we have, let's see, was there a question on, oh, right, so the thing with video, thank you, Maureen, because you are right. Right after it's over, it's available on the page for until it gets pushed down in the comments. So when it's on the page, if you go to the video and there's the 3 dots off to the right. If you click on those 3 dots, you'll get some choices, and you could save this video actually to your own page if you wanted to. But they are all saved to our page under the media tab. Or the easiest way is do a search and then hashtag what it is. And this one will be, as it says at the top, hashtag AD Skill Builder 3. So you'll be able to find it. Like last week, if you want to look for last week ones, you would just do hashtag Skill Builder 2. No spaces, put it all together as one word. There we go. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is transferring to the machine. I don't know if my machine oh, it doesn't matter actually, because I want to show you something. With a Janome, when you're transferring to the machine, you do need to know, Janome and Brother machines definitely need to know their hoop before they go. So you have to switch, in order to get a, even to save this, if I was to go here to File, Save As, and I wanted to save this in a different format, it doesn't give me PES here because Janome and Brother machines, they require the hoop to be chosen with it. So if I wanted to change this, if I wanted to save this as a PES, I would have to go to my hoop here, go in here, and change my company and my machine. All right, so that's how that would work. And we covered how to put that at your default. So the one thing I want to show, and let's do this. When you're going to save on a Janome especially, Janomes are specific about hoop size, and they're also specific by machine as to what folders you use. And I talked a lot about this in the first video. I think I did a whole thing on transferring. But if you happen to have one of our older machines down here, and like a 10,001 or a 10,000 version 3 or one of these machines. And I'm going to pick this hoop here, and I have to delete something. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink these to fit in the hoop so we don't have any issue. Will it work? There we go. All right, so if I wanted to save this and I had one of those machines, the point I want to make is the software is very smart. It's going, for a Janome machine, it's going to think for you about those folders that you need to use. So it changed my machine icon at the top. And if I wanted to take this to my machine, I would use my USB storage. And I'm going to pick my, this is my drive that my USB is in. So the first thing you have to do is pick your drive. And see this that pops up? It says selected drive is going to be prepared. Do I want to continue? And if this was my machine that I was going to, I would say yes, because it's going to put the proper folders on my USB stick for that machine. Way back, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, we had to use specific folders and put things in a specific spot in order for our machines to read them. As our machines became smarter and smarter and smarter, we don't have to do that now. And that's what I covered in the first one. If you have a newer machine like a 500E, 550E, 15,000, 12,000, 14,000, I think the 9850, some of those newer machines, you don't have to follow the file system. But if you like the file system, the software thinks for you and will give you the file system. So you don't have to format that stick. It formats while you're using the software, and it puts the proper folders where you need them. Does that make sense? So let's cancel out of this. Let's change this back to my 15,000. And I'll show you. Go here. And I'm going to choose that. And here it put, when I clicked on my drive, it opened actually the EMB folder. And if I go up a folder, you'll see, oh, there's my EMB folder. And it still has those other folders on there because I didn't delete them. There's my EMB. So it opens your EMB and you get an EMBF. And last week, the first week I did the whole thing on where these all are, and then I went to the machine. There's another video called Ladies of the USB. If you do hashtag Ladies of the USB, I go over transferring, loading the USB, showing you where they are on the USB, dragging, dropping, copy, pasting, that kind of thing. And then I show you how to find them in the machine. So definitely check that out. I know a lot of people have trouble. That's probably one of the most common things I see on every page I go to. I can't find my designs on my USB stick. All right. So if you watch those videos, it'll become more clear to you. So let's cancel out of there. And I think that brings us to the very end. Do we have any questions? Oh, Shirley, you asked about how do I change the color of my hoop. So the color of my hoop is actually the same color as my selection box. You see that? There's my selection box. When I click and drag, that green. When I click here, down here to my hoop, it makes my hoop that same green. So if I change that up here, let's go up here to View, Custom Colors. Let's change my selection area to something else. Let's change it to red. And when I select, it's sort of that red color. And now my hoop is that red color. Okay. All right. I'll wait a minute to see if there's any last minute questions. I'm going to put it back on the camera and take any last minute questions. So that would be here. Here we go. Oops. I'm working to get the camera here. Here we go. There it is. All right, there we are. Okay, so let me see if there's any questions coming over here. Oh, machine in the, oh, that's sad. Definitely a full session. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, these very first ones, I try to keep them to an hour. And because after that, your brain just like, you're done. You know, you're thinking about other things. So I really don't want to do too much. But I had missed that. I didn't want to miss one more week on that part and push it off. And I always like having more. I'd rather have to put something next week than not have enough. You know, have to stretch. So let me see if there's any last minute questions here. Color toolbar not on top of, okay. So last week I covered a little bit about the toolbar, not your colors and your properties laying on top of each other. I call it a little bit of a dance. You click on the top of the box and drag it off, drag it towards the middle, and then release it, and it should open big on top of each other. You got to kind of play the dance with it, okay, to get them to work. Get one open, and then the other one should follow. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see if there's anything else here. Oh, okay. So the hoop that I used last time, that's the ASQ22 hoop. That is for the 15,000, the 14,000, and the 12,000. That only fits on there. There's a similar hoop but smaller that fits the 500E and the 550E. So it's called the I think it's the let's see, mine is SQ22. That one might be SQ22B for that machine, if you have the smaller machine. The way you can tell what your machine has, on your machine, you could go to edit, go to hoops, and then there's 2 pages of hoops. It'll show you all the hoops that are available for your machine. And in the software here, when you open up the hoop window, it shows you all the hoops that are available for your machine at this point. Okay, that covers that. All right. Well, I'm gonna go get my lunch, and I'll be looking forward to seeing some really creative monograms, some things that you're doing with trim and the shaping. Remember, shaping, trim, weld, and intersect. All right. So till we meet again, I'll see you Thursday. I'm gonna be posting that a little bit right after lunch. I'll post the thing for Thursday. We're gonna work with applique again, but I'm gonna delve into some new features and also a little bit more deeply than we have before. We'll go a little deeper. All right, everybody, have a great day and keep designing. All right, see you later. Bye-bye. I'm going to put the cover page up and see if I can get the a title on here. I don't think I can do a title.